I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, it's Steph here, and I thought today that I would do another tier ranking video. I haven't done one for a little while, and this time I've decided to go with ranking romance tropes. So I did put the call out for people to suggest their favorite tropes on Instagram. I also had my list, and I know I have forgotten some, and people comment in the comments letting me know which ones I totally forgot. But if you let me know, we'll add them into maybe a part 2 or something like that. But anyway, I've set up a tier maker list and I thought I would go through it. And if I can think of any good recommendations while we're going, I will add them in. All right, so this is my tier ranking trope section. As you can see, there's quite a few tropes. I did do these in alphabetical order in a lovely color order, and then the tier maker website just mixed them up. So we're going to go with that. To briefly explain my categories, I think they're pretty self-explanatory. There is gimme. These are the tropes that you tell me about them and I will read this book. Yes, please. Things that I still really love and will more than likely mean I'll pick it up. Sounds good are things that, I'm happy to see. They make me happy when they're in a book. Depends are things that I have conditions around whether or not I will pick up the book based on those particular tropes. And there's a few in here. And then there are my nope tropes, because I think we've all got a few of those. So there are 39 tropes here, and we're just going to jump straight into it. So the first one is enemies to lovers, and I think I'm going to put it in sounds good because I do really enjoy it, but there are things that I enjoy more than it. We'll leave it there for the minute. If I come back to it, I might move it. Fake dating is something that I really enjoy seeing in books, and I recently read, actually you would have heard me talk about it in my most recent Books Beside My Bed video, Bad Deal by Annabeth Albert had fake dating in it, and I was all here for it. There's something just a lot of fun about two people who are pretending to be in love and thinking that they're not going to fall in love in a romance book. Fated mates, that is a yes please. I don't need to have it in all my books. Typically, if I'm reading a paranormal romance, I would expect to see it. The only reason I'm not putting it in gimme again is because I think it's one of those things that is conditional on sort of the genre or the subgenre of romance that you're reading as to whether or not it works as effectively as it does in others. Forbidden romance is a sometimes depends sort of trope for me. Depends what the forbidden trope is. And I know this is probably more, it's kind of more a subgenre, I suppose, but I think people throw that out there as oh yes, this is forbidden, and a follow-up trope to it as well. But I put it in there just because I think it gets thrown around as a trope a little bit at the moment. And if it's not specified what the forbidden element is, then it's definitely a depends for me. Forced proximity, yes, give me that all the time. That is so much fun. I don't know what else I can say about that. When two people are forced to spend time together, you get to see how they actually interact. And I think that's the fun part of relationships in books. Friends to lovers, it's kind of sitting here in the sounds good or depends. I think I'm going to have to put it in depends, not necessarily because I don't like it, but I think that it is truly dependent on the reason why they haven't become more than friends in that time. If the friends to lovers element is much shorter, so they're adults, they've met, they strike up a friendship, and then it moves into a relationship quite quickly, I'd probably move it up further. Or higher, I suppose. Actually, you know what? I just remembered I had childhood friends to lovers on here, so I can actually move this one up to sounds good, because childhood friends to lovers is one that I would put lower, because there has to be a really good reason why that would be the case, why it hasn't progressed, and then why they come back together as well. It is a bit like, and I've got to see if I can find where it's ended up in here, on the second chance. I think these two, you have to really sell me on the reason why they either need a second chance or why they haven't become more earlier. Doesn't mean authors can't do it. I have read books where I've enjoyed this, but I think it's really dependent on quite a lot of things. Grumpy Sunshine is a favorite. You tell me it's Grumpy Sunshine and I'll read it, especially if it is a female Grumpy Sunshine story. That is a definite favorite trope. Holiday romances sort of sits here in the middle. I do enjoy them. I do read a lot of them. They don't always hit the mark for me, so I suppose it sounds good when I'm in the mood for them. Love triangles is a note for me. I think it's a note for a lot of people. Not necessarily everyone, and that's totally fine, but it's got to be damn good for me to really enjoy that as a trope, just because I want to spend the majority of the time with the people that are going to be the couple. One that did work really well for me was Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake by Alexis Hall, mostly because it was very clear where the direction the book was going to go in and which couple was going to take precedent, and we just had to work through the rest of it. And Rosalind herself as a character had to work through her understanding and her ideas of the two men that she was interested in, but it definitely doesn't always work for me. Make Them Jealous is a sounds good for me. I don't mind it. I've also seen it done really badly as well. So as long as we're sitting sort of in the middle there, I'm pretty good with it. Age gap, I will read. I don't have an issue with it unless it's illegal. So yeah, I don't mind age gaps. And as long as it doesn't feel super cringy, then totally fine. Marriage in Trouble, it depends, because it usually then has this second chance element. And like I said, I think second chance needs a really good reason for why that resolves itself. Marriage of Convenience, yes please. That is always highly entertaining for me. What comes to mind? So Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark is an interesting one. They're both trying to kill each other before and after their wedding day, which, you know, shouldn't be as entertaining as it is, but definitely was. I Like a Meet Cute. It's always fun. It's in most books. Some are done better than, like, some are always done better than the others. Monster Romance, yes please. I really love those. I have an entire video on monster romances, so if you want to, you can check that out. I don't need to give specific recommendations because I have way too many for them. Morality Chain is can I put it before? Move it over. I'm going to put it at the front because that is my all-time favorite trope. I Know I Never Shut Up About It by Heart of Obsidian by Nalini Singh is just top tier. Run Posy Run by Kate C. Wells is also really good. That is a top tier trope for me, along with Only One Bed, because you can never go wrong with people going, oh damn, there's only one bed. I really like Rejected Mate, and this came about from reading another Kate C. Wells book, Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate. I think that's the title. Anyway, that one really sold me on it because, oh boy, did the hero have to work. This one actually sort of had that second chance element done perfectly well, but Rejected Mate is great. Revenge is kind of a depends, because I think it ties in a lot of those things. I can't think of a revenge book at the moment that I've really enjoyed or that stands out as something that I've really enjoyed to move it higher, but you never know, I might stumble across one. I don't mind a royalty romance. Sometimes they're really fun, if only to be outlandish. I like them when they're a little bit more outlandish than based on reality. Like, I'm not going to go and read a contemporary romance based on any of the current royal families unless I've heard really good things about it and it's distanced itself enough from the source material, but I don't mind it if it's a little bit more out there. Katie Roberts' Theirs for the Night, which is an MMF. I think, is that the novella? Anyway, there's 2 novels and a novella in the series, the Thelanian Dynasty, or the former Thelanian Dynasty books, and those are really fun. Aliens, like monsters, yes please. They're always fun. Shifters, gimme. You guys know I love my shifter paranormal romances, particularly if they're wolves, but, you know, I'll read any shifters. Siblings Best Friend is another one that I really like. I just think that offers a really interesting dynamic, and also some, usually, hopefully, sometimes the external conflict can be around that rather than the couple themselves. Not always, but I like it if that's the way that it goes. I do enjoy single parent romance. The most recent one that I've really loved was You and Me by Tal Bauer, which is an MM romance between 2 single dads of teenage boys. It was like, I'm still thinking about that book. I know I only read it the other week, but, you know, 2 weeks later, it's just a book that, as I said in my wrap-up video for that, I think it's going to be a standout book for the year for me. Just the things that the 2 characters go through and the way that they make their relationship work and they bond over parenting is just great. Sports star or sports romances, like, they're always fun as well. I prefer them if they're not college, but a lot of them do tend to be college age protagonists. But if they're older, even better. Yeah, no, they can be a lot of fun. Mostly because you have a team dynamic, and it often opens it up to having more characters because there are teammates involved and we get their stories as well. Because you guys know I love a series. Stolen from the Wedding. This is a favorite. I'm pretty sure this is one of Heather's favorites as well. It is highly entertaining. Surprise pregnancy is down here in the note, but I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by me putting it down here because I just do not like this one. I don't necessarily have a thing against kids or pregnancy in books, but I don't like that surprise element. I know that not everyone can have an open and honest sort of conversation about those things in reality, but I think in books, springing it on and making that a plot point, often a source of conflict, is not my favorite. Taboo, it depends on what the taboo element is. Again, this sort of blends in between trope and subgenre, but yeah, depending on what the taboo element is, now we might put it up here and sounds good because I do read a lot of things that have elements of taboo included in them. Violent meet cutes, yes. Have we not worked out that I don't mind violence in my books? Why Choose is also up here. Like I could put it in depends, but I actually enjoy it a lot. But it is dependent on the characters and the storyline and how that all works. Oh, you know what I forgot to put in here was swords crossing, but we'll talk about it here. I much prefer a Why Choose romance if everyone in the relationship is involved with everyone. What have I read recently? Reverie and Redemption by Cadence Snow was fantastic for that. The Company of Fiends by Catherine Moon was also really, really good. Not necessarily every partner is with every other partner in the book, but there are multiple partnerships within the relationship, which is, what I would at least like to see, that element of it. I'm currently reading Elle Thorpe's Saint View series. I'm started the Saint View prison series and the Saint View, what's the spin-off of that one called? I can't remember. But I've read, there's 3 series and I've read the first book and the second and the third trilogy. I don't know quite yet if there's going to be a relationship between all of the characters, but even if it's not, I've liked the setup so far. So yeah, those are some that I've enjoyed. I don't mind an alpha character. I know that not everyone does. I do have my limits though, and I think I talked about it in my most recent Books Beside My Bed video because there were a couple of alpha male protagonists who I just did not like particularly. So it's not like it is I'll take any of them. I don't know if I have hard and fast rules. I think sometimes it comes down to the story and the way that the characters play out. I do like it a lot, but I have specific conditions. Amnesia. I'm going to put it in Nope, and I'm going to say that with the caveat that not everything in Nope means I'm not going to necessarily never pick up the book. I have read Amnesia in books. The Kate Daniels series by Lona Andrews has an amnesia plot point later in the series, which, look, was not my favorite admittedly, but also wasn't terrible. And I know that I've definitely read it in other books where it wasn't terrible, but I would prefer not to have it if I can get away with it. Beauty and the Beast, love it. I know that's more a retelling element, but hey, it might as well be a trope these days. So then we've got best friends, sibling. So this is usually dependent on who the main characters are and how they're interacting. So I know these two are very close, but yeah, I like it. As I said before, I like the dynamic of having those extra relationship ties to characters. Billionaire depends on the author, depends on the story. I think there was a huge trend towards billionaire romances, 10 years ago. They're maybe not quite as popular now. They're still obviously being written, but yeah, I think it depends on the context of the story. Bully is an absolute nope for me. I see it, and honestly, all it does is make me go, I don't want to read that book. It's not to say people can't redeem themselves, but I don't know if the redemption arc is always played out the way that it needs to, or if enough time has passed for it to work. And I don't like the I'm going to bully you because I like you plotline either. I think that's just a cop-out. So yeah, that's a nope for me on bully romances. And last one for now is road trips, which is a yes, please. I love a road trip. They're just fun. All right, so those are my romance tropes ranked. I'd love to know where you guys would rank some of these tropes. And as I said, if you have other tropes that I haven't included in this list, because I started getting past 30 and I'm like, this video will be forever long if I'm not careful. But yeah, if you have other tropes or if you have different places you'd rank some of these tropes, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, you can leave me a sunshine emoji if you want to let me know that you're here. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're on the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, everyone.